You know, I date a lot of Black men, and they'll tell me how they love Latinas because we're raised to cater to our man versus other cultures. And
I can see that.
Yeah, and when I hear that, I'd be like, yeah, because Latinas are the shit, right? But then when I really think about it, I'm like, are we doing more of a disservice to Latinas? Because a lot of Latinas walking out here insecure. They're not asking for the money that they deserve. They're not negotiating at the table. They're being really quiet. They're working with their head down. They're not going for the promotion. They're, you know, lacking confidence and all the things. And so it's kind of like, it's a gift and a curse.
It is.
It's like the gift is we are raised culturally to cater to our men, and that brings us joy. Like to your point, it brings me joy. I love to cater. Like when my dad's at my house, he's a freaking king. I'm cooking for him. I'm clean. Get to get it. What you need? What you need? Right? And the same thing for, you know, my man. And so, but on the other token of that, I was also raised by my father. And so I think a lot of that, like masculinity, going after what I want, the aggressiveness and all of that comes from being raised so much by him. So I have the balance, but a lot of Latinas don't have the balance. And so it's serving, is it doing more damage than good?
Listen, I have a little girl, and I'm raising her to be strong and independent, caring and loving. It's like, I don't want her to be like, my sister is an amazing woman. Don't get me wrong. I don't want her to be like my sister, catering to a man. I want her to be an individual. I want her to be strong. You know, Liz wants to put her in gymnastics. I'm like, I want to put her in boxing classes.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm like, go kick ass. It's like, I don't want you to be in a position where you have to run away from a guy or some man is going to overpower you. I want you to be able to knock him out. Not that I condone violence, but kick his fucking ass if he puts his hands on you. You know, that shit.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to be that traditional Latina that just does whatever the man tells her to, right? Because that's not what I grew up with. I do have cousins that are like that, but my mother was like, I think my father was terrified of my mother, you know, growing up because she was so strong and tough.
Yes.
Tough is a nice word.
Yeah.
You know, my mother was hard. She was a very hard woman, but my daughter needs to see that there has to be a balance. I want her to not have to go through the same things that my sisters went through.
And I think that's so important to just uplift is, you're right, there's a major confidence gap with Latinas, even as it pertains to voting. There is a confidence gap with Latinas when it comes to their value. And I do think, to a certain extent, there is a disservice when you're consistently having to rely on somebody for your livelihood and your happiness. And I think for myself, you know, my mom would always say, nadie te va a dar nada en la mano. Like, the funny thing is I don't speak Spanish that well, but the words that my mom would consistently repeat to me are things that I could like just flow through my tongue, right? Like, she'd always say, you need to work hard, you know, nothing's ever going to be handed to you. And, you know, even the fact that like my husband recently bought a house and I was so proud, but I was like, you know, I have to keep my condo in Manhattan because I'm like, you just never know. There's so much suffering, right? When you're consistently having to cater to somebody else's needs, and you're not able to really build yourself up to have the confidence to express your own needs. And I think that's what was very challenging for me, what I witnessed in the church, right? Going to church every day, you would see this with families. And I also coached varsity high school girls. There were predominantly Latinas in Watsonville, California. And I remember going to do home visits because the girls were not showing up for basketball practice.
Because they had to take care of the family?
Because they had to take care and they had to clean. And I remember going to speak to a family, and I said, you know, and the mom was speaking to me and the husband was just there and he was like, yo no sé por qué me está hablando. He wanted the guy coach to speak to him. And I said, no te está hablando, no le está hablando porque no habla español. He don't know Spanish. That's the reason he ain't talking to you and I'm talking to you, right? And I remember calling my mom and asking her, like, Mom, you know, I played ball all my life. And I remember, like, she didn't understand. And it was like, why are you in the streets? And I said, Mom, what should I say to these parents? And she's like, tell them that I was mistaken for limiting your ability to be on the court and be free Like, I should have never taken that from you. And so I talked to, luckily, I kept showing up and I kept trying to talk to these parents that their kids actually ended up graduating high school and going to college. But even that wasn't their path.
Right.
These girls' path were not to go to university. Their path was to get pregnant, to have kids, or to be home and take care of the family. And I do think it's a disservice. Luckily now, Latinas make a significant amount of the population that are graduating college, but that is recent, right?
Right.
And so I do think, we're doing a disservice when we're not giving girls, Latina girls, the opportunity to have the balance to decide for themselves. Look, you want to serve and that's what you love, then do that. If you want to go and pursue your own career and have a partnership, then do that too. But I know for myself as a Latina, at my age, who has a 26-year career, you and I talked about this. I sometimes don't know my value. I sometimes don't know when to ask. And it's not because, I just wasn't taught. That wasn't what was being taught at home. My brothers were a lot like you. They're like, let's put her in basketball. Let's put her in boxing. Like, let's rough her up. We're going to teach her how to defend herself and we're going to teach her how to make her own money. And I am grateful for that. But there was also what I needed from the women in my home to show me that I was enough, and it wasn't just to be dependent on a partner, which oftentimes mothers are telling you, si no te pega, quédate. If they're not hitting you, you should stay. I mean, he's cheating, who cares, right? And so I think
that's a whole nother show.
Yeah. And so again, the way in which we raise girls compared to the way in which we raise boys is not balanced. Right, sometimes. And so I love this conversation because this is a part of me that I don't ever really get to share. And I learned so much from you, but I think it's so important to continuously talk about this in our homes,
Absolutely, absolutely.